Hello, brothers and sisters. It's time for the second part of my trilogy on We Are Humanity. And this second part is called What It Means to Be Human. And the first part was the law of love. And the third part will be the hero in us all. Okay, so first of all, I light the candle of harmony. This represents the harmony we have within our being. See a beautiful light. Imagine that light within your heart. It's a spiritual light. In the Bhagavad Gita it says that the mind should become like a candle in a spot free from wind. Just very calm. You can see the light, how beautiful the light is. We all have that light within our hearts. No matter what happens in the world, no matter how people try and put us down in whatever way they can, we always have that light within which cannot be extinguished by anyone or anything. It's the light of the pure spirit, the pure spiritual light in each one of us. We're all beautiful beings. We're denizens of eternity. We're children of the light. We're incredible beings with great potential. Don't let the world put you down. Just be what you are within. A beautiful, sacred, spiritual being. So let's have a little meditation before I start. Here we've got Kuan Yin. I'll do the Kuan Yin pledge. Never will I seek nor receive private individual salvation. Never will I enter into final peace alone. But forever and everywhere will I live and strive for the redemption of every creature throughout the world from the bonds of conditioned existence. That's the vow that Kuan Yin made. Esoterically, Kuan Yin is a divine voice within each one of us. But I like the beautiful image of Kuan Yin as a goddess. And I know many people who are incarnations of Kuan Yin, or the qualities of Kuan Yin are within them, both male and female, particularly female because it's more in tune with the feminine. So let's have a little bit of just breathe out any tension you've got. Be at peace, be relaxed. Close your eyes or look at the candle flame, whatever you wish. And just be peaceful. There's a thing about tuning the breath. If your breath makes noise, if it makes sound, and the mind is often disturbed, and vice versa. The breath should be calm, silent, like the mind. Tuning the breath and mind. And be aware of oblivion and distraction. Two things that can affect meditation. Oblivion and distraction. Breathe out all tension. Let's have a few moments of quiet and peace. Okay, let's all come back to earth now. Silence is a beautiful thing. As Ramana Maharishi said, silence is the true eloquence. Remember that. So what it means to be human. H.P. Blavatsky wrote, the tendency of modern civilization is a reaction towards animalism, towards a development of those qualities which conduce to the success in life of man as an animal in the struggle for animal existence. Theosophy seeks to develop the human nature in man in addition to the animal, and at the sacrifice of the superfluous animality which modern life and materialistic teachings have developed to a degree which is abnormal for the human being at this stage of his progress. Men cannot all be occultists, but they can all be Theosophists. So, unfortunately, this is more true now in many ways than when it was written by H.P. Blavatsky, HPB as I call it, in 1888. With the rise of artificial intelligence and more communication going online, human contact is taking on a whole new meaning, and the animalism that HPB talks about is wearing a different mask. In fact, animalism is perhaps the wrong word to use, as it is even going beyond that, and new pathways are being created within the brain to shut out the soul light even more. So what does it mean to be human? Let's take a quote I use often from Confucius, when he says that without fellow feeling, we are just mannequins. Or are we on the way to becoming just CGI on a screen? To be human, we need the spiritual element. Take away that, and we are far from realising our true potential. Everything we do individually and collectively is based upon these lower mind desires and goals. The increase in technology does nothing to change this. In fact, it further entangles us in the web of materialism. The fact that such technology is being produced shows how much the brain has been developed at the expense of the soul and the spirit, and complexity takes the place of simplicity. Now we see films, TV and even advertisements showing humans reacting with robots in an emotional way, and even shedding tears when they cease to operate for one reason or another. Also, these robots speak and feel as humans do, even though they are in reality only soulless machines. This is because scientists that create these things have no knowledge or understanding of spirituality, and therefore society heads on a dangerous course towards a cultural abyss. They think that this is the way to go, blind to the fact that they are on the way to creating a soul-dead humanity. HPB states in the above quote that these materialistic ideas and teachings are abnormal at this stage of our evolution. If this is true, then it is more so now than it was even then when she wrote that. It's essential to discover our own identity, so that the one that's not the one that society gives to us and that most people just accept without question. This is because they allow others to think for them, and those that do think for them are materialistically orientated. They are obsessed with money and material goals and completely blind to their own mortality. As the Bible tells us, do not lay up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moth and rust corrupt, and where thieves break in and steal, but lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust corrupt, and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. The Zen master Daju says, open your own treasure house and use those treasures. Open your own treasure house and use those treasures. The heart is our spiritual centre, and this is where the true treasure lies, not in the soul-dead, uninspiring world of technology and machines. The more we get into that, the more depressed and despondent many of us will become, because imagination and inspiration are supplanted with conditioned and mechanical thought. Indeed, this kind of thinking is what is predominant in modern society. Very few people have original thoughts developed from their own treasure house. They go along with the murky second-hand ideals that are thrust upon us by the spiritually blind, leading the spiritually blind. Fortunately, there are many in the world working on the side of light, and these prevent the flame from burning out completely. In time it will become a healing fire that will spread through the minds and hearts of all beings, because the power of spirit is 1,000,000 times more effective than the power of materialism. If only people will awaken to that fact, and in a cyclic course of evolution, they hopefully will. Once we begin to see ourselves as eternal beings and to make that realisation a living reality in our lives, then we enter a new state of consciousness, and although we live, move and have our being in the same surroundings as before, we in fact are living in a different world, because we are perceiving in a more enlightened manner. In fact, as regards spiritual progress, we don't go anywhere. But as our senses and consciousness are refined, we are aware of deeper levels and dimensions to our perceptions of the illusions that give us credence in an ever-changing universe. To find stability, we need to be aware of the unchanging dimension to our own being. As the spirit filters down through our ever-densifying levels of consciousness, it illuminates and hones our various principles. Our mind becomes purified and capable of appreciating the higher aspects of our existence. Our emotions become sanctified to a deeper reality, and our physical body is transformed into a temple of the Holy Grail. To look at it another way, as we purify our various vehicles, they become more porous and the light of the Spirit shines through with less obstruction. The influence of our divine nature manifests in our daily lives as a purified conscience, a highly sensitive recognition of the suffering of others caused by their ignorance of their true being, and a love and compassion for all sentient beings as emanating from and returning eventually to the same source. Also, we can see that no matter what event befalls us in our lives, whether we designate them good or bad, if we have the right attitude, if we have our line of life meditation, the desire to live in the light of our higher self, then all that comes to pass is to help us to realise that we are these denizens of eternity, that we are children of the light. Our reaction to and our assimilation of the lessons learned to help us on our pilgrimage become of paramount importance. As I wrote elsewhere in another talk called Grow as the Flower Grows, in this world, basing our consciousness on the transitory and the perishable, we are often confused, distressed and depressed because we are mentally tossed about like a boat on rough seas. We have built our house on sand and not on sturdy rock, as the Bible tells us. It is all a matter of finding our inner self, that place of sanctuary where we are beyond the machinations of the world around us, and we can begin to discover who we really are, not what the world in general tells us we are. We will become free from labels and able to stand firm no matter what life throws at us. We are so much more than we think we are at the moment. We have gained something very precious on our journey, and that is self-awareness. The ability to take our progress in hand and proceed by self-induced and self-devised efforts, as the Secret Doctrine by H.P. Blavatsky tells us, and we are able to contemplate the world on a higher level and realise that we are multi-dimensional beings according to the teachings of all the great spiritual teachers of the world, and we should strive towards that understanding, each to the limits of his or her ability. So like the flower finding its way from the dark earth out into the sunlight and growing in that light until it finally blossoms, so we also blossom in beauty in the light of the higher self. We come to an awareness of who and what we truly are, not what the material-orientated world has made us believe we are. with all its limitations and divisions and misunderstandings and misrepresentations, and what it is to be truly human. So in these difficult times, let us step back mentally and draw upon our divine nature, which is untouched by all that goes on in the material world. Our true life is way beyond the temporary illusions of this plane of existence, and although it may not seem like it at the moment, all those things that cause us pain on a physical level will pass in time, and no matter how dark life becomes, there is a happy ending for everyone in the long run. Now, many spiritual texts say that to obtain a human birth is difficult, but perhaps that refers to the fact that it is difficult to develop those human qualities and therefore be born again, if you like, as a real human being, as the Confucians say. The world is full of amazing beauty, but people miss it, as their minds are full of mundane matters. We have made a world that forces people to be consumed by these things, with little time to step back and admire what beauty there is around them, and more importantly, within them. I think that in most cases people may be afraid to face this, as it may upset the almost mechanical routine of their lives, physically and mentally. They may not want to face up to the fleeting nature of their lives. Most of us do not like change, and some are so engrossed in materiality that they have lost all interest and connection to nature and to their spiritual being, and are happy just to dwell in ignorance of both. Others enjoy their holidays and perhaps their temporary attunement with the natural world before they return to the chaotic city life. To some, their attachment to a religion or spiritual practice may be just another acquisition to them. A few awaken to the transience of life in this personality and try to find stability in the permanence of their divine nature, led on by divine discontent that arises from an awareness that material possessions are temporary, and we only take with us when we pass on from this earth what we have gained by living or trying to live a spiritually orientated life, which in the end brings us the only permanent peace of mind, despite what insurance companies tell us on TV advertisements. So to be human is to be humane, which is, as the dictionary has it, is characterised by tenderness, compassion and sympathy for other beings, especially for the suffering or distressed. The Voice of the Silence, again by H.P. Blavatsky, says, "Let thy soul lend its ear to every cry of pain, like as the lotus spurs its heart to drink the morning sun. Let not the fierce sun dry one tear of pain, before thyself hast wiped it from the sufferer's eye. But let each burning human tear drop on thy heart, and there remain, nor ever brush it off, until the pain that caused it is removed." This may seem rather lofty for those of us just starting on the path, but at least we can try to be kind and compassionate and caring, because these qualities arise from our spiritual nature and help to refine that nature so that more and more of its light does shine through, as mentioned earlier. To repeat a quote from another talk again to illustrate this, and this is from the Theosophical Glossary by H.P. Blavatsky and others. And we tend to think of karma as being desire. For example, the Kama Rupa, which we call the desire body, or the Kama Sutra. But listen to this. Karma, not karma, not K-A-R-M-A, karma, K-A-M-A. Karma is the first conscious, all-embracing desire for universal good, love, and for all that lives and feels, needs help and kindness. The first feeling of infinite tender compassion and mercy that arose in the consciousness of the creative one force as soon as it came into life and being as a ray from the Absolute. There's no idea of sexual love in this conception. Karma is preeminently the divine desire of creating happiness and love. And it is only ages later, as mankind began to materialise by anthropomorphization its grandest ideals into cut and dried dogmas, that karma became the power that gratifies desire on the animal plane. So we need to reassess the whole idea of what it means to be truly human. It's not just to be born into this world, it's to be human, to be a human being. But as we were conditioned from the beginning to stifle that humanity, we become indoctrinated with the soul-killing material values that pervade society and lose the power to think and act spontaneously from our true divine nature. If everyone had the same goal, even though the ways to reach it were different, then we would have a truly inspired society. Everyone would understand what was needed to make them recipient of the soul of the world, as Ralph Waldo Emerson puts it, and they would work to make that a living reality in their lives. We would all come to realise that we are all in it together. We share the same spirit. We are pilgrims on the same road, heading for the same place, for want of a better word, you could call it a place. Differences are caused by the great, dire heresy of separateness that weans us from the rest. The great, dire heresy of separateness that weans us from the rest. We must not live as if our personalities are going on forever, but realise that we are only immortal in our higher natures. Immortality is but one's unbroken consciousness, which transcends the illusion of death. At the beginning of time, there was one universal mind, which filtered down through all the layers of being, and at the lowest level it gives the illusion of being billions of separate minds. But it is still the same universal mind in essence. William Blake, in his poem London, uses the expression mind-forged manacles. And it is we that forge them by attaching ourselves to material ideas and concepts. Not until we free ourselves from any conceptual views can we begin to have a clear vision and begin to discern what we really are beyond these mind-forged manacles and the disastrous ideals of a materialistic society, which at the moment, unfortunately, most follow unquestioningly, and which, as said, will lead to the quenching of any spiritual aspiration or true creative inspiration. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and if we are immersed in the lower nature, we will see beauty in what is really ugliness, and ugliness in what is beauty. But if we begin to awaken, then the soul within us recognises what is conducive to its manifestation and what will aid us in our quest to become spiritually enlightened. Also, our lower nature knows best what will keep us confined in the prison of our senses and will try its best to keep us there. So this explains the battle that goes on within us constantly until we are freed from these mind-forged manacles. We must learn to see and appreciate the beauty in all things, the true beauty of the soul. Plotinus, or Plotinus, in his essay on beauty, has always been an inspiration to me along these lines. In that he says about true vision, such vision is for those only who see with the soul's sight. And at the vision they will rejoice, and awe will fall upon them, and a trouble deeper than all the rest could ever stir. For now they are moving in the realm of truth. This is the spirit that beauty must ever induce, wonderment, and a delicious trouble, longing and love, and a trembling that is all delight. For the unseen all this may be felt as for the seen, and this the souls feel for it, every soul in some degree. But those the more deeply that are the more truly act to this higher love. Just as all take delight in the beauty of the body, but all are not stung as sharply, and those only that feel the keener wounds are known as lovers. These lovers then, lovers of the beauty outside of sense, must be made to declare themselves. What do you feel in the presence of the grace you discern in actions, in manners, in sound morality, in all the works and fruits of virtue, in the beauty of souls. When you see that you yourselves are beautiful within, what do you feel? What is this Dionysic exultation that thrills through your being? This straining upwards of all your soul, this longing to break away from the body and live sunken within the veritable self. These are no other than the emotions of souls under the spell of love. So it is becoming aware of the divine in all beings, seeing the beauty beyond the mask that we all wear. So now let's recap on several points I mentioned and to enlarge on some. There are certain qualities that pertain to our lower nature that prevent us from seeing clearly what we truly are in essence. Fear and anger would lead us to act in ways that we would not do if we were thinking rationally and calmly. Fear is a difficult feeling to analyse. Why do we fear? It is often because we face situations or imagine situations that we seem to have no control over, and so we feel helpless in the face of it all. Anger, unless it is a righteous anger, springs from a strong sense of personality, which is usually due to a sense that we have been offended in some way. In both cases, our true nature is masked, and we are reacting in a conditioned and limited way, far from our true self. It is sometimes essential to imagine ourselves stepping back from society, maybe imagining that we are on a mountain and looking down upon the world. If we do this, we see the shallowness of society and the almost tragic comedy that we are caught up in, and how people feel that to think and act second-hand under the guidance of material-minded individuals makes them truly human. This is far from the beauty and spontaneity of acting under the aegis or the guidance of our spiritual selves. So there are two levels as to what we mean to be human. As mentioned earlier, the Confucians talk about the real human, as the Buddhists mention the true man or the true woman, regarding someone who has awakened to what are the qualities of being a true human being. And then we have to, what the general consensus of what it means to be human, i.e. just to be born makes one human, regardless of how that person acts and thinks in their lives. But to come full circle to what HPB said in the quote at the beginning in Theosophical teaching, in Theosophy we are in the fourth round of evolution out of 7, and in the fifth sub-race of the fifth root race. We have passed the lowest point and should be now on our way upwards, back towards a spiritual consciousness. So we should be trying to shake off the hold of the lower animalistic aspects of our being and live under the guidance of our divine nature. That's why she says that this present state of consciousness is abnormal for us at the present stage of our evolution. We're in fact getting deeper and deeper immersed in materialistic thought in general for the great mass of society, not for everyone. This is why the Mahachohan says in a letter I quoted from in the last talk that it is time Theosophy should enter the arena, because Theosophical teaching provides a sensible approach to spirituality, free from the dogma and intolerance of organised religion and the brutality of material thought. And this is encapsulated in our motto: there is no religion higher than truth. No religion higher than truth. So there you are. The most important thing is to live under the guidance of this higher spiritual self. We're living in difficult times, but there's a lot of beauty in the world. You can go out and you can go on a trip in the countryside like I went on recently and see beauty, not just in the countryside but in people and situations. So we should never ever despair. As Plato says in another short talk I've given on my thing, take heart, for the race of man is divine. Take heart, for the race of man's divine. Always hope. Always have hope in your hearts. Never give up. See the beauty within yourself and others. Have the light in your heart like the candle flame. Keep the beauty in your soul. There's always ways to be positive, to think positively, to act positively. And you know the powers of materialism and darkness cannot touch the true spiritual self. It's beyond all of that. Dwelling in the beautiful blue skies of spirit, the wondrous worlds that we can create in our imagination. Imagination is so powerful. You know, we can create things through our imagination. Imagine a better world, a golden age, a wonderful world, a beautiful world, a world of peace, love, harmony, where we can all come together as brothers and sisters and love one another. Love one another with all our hearts and all our being. That's what we need to do. In these times where people attempt to crush out love and peace and harmony, we can become love and peace and harmony. Never hiding our lights under a bushel. Never thinking of ourselves as less than the highest and the best and the purest and the most wonderful. Because we're all one. That's it. One spirit. We're all together. All this separateness is an illusion. We're just one, in essence. And we never age. We never die. We never change, really, inwardly. It's all on the surface. It's like the waves on the ocean. You know the waves on the ocean? The ocean itself is calm and tranquil in its depth. But waves come and go on the ocean. So we should think of this life, as it says in the Diamond Sutra, like bubbles on a stream, a flash of lightning in a summer cloud. And go deep within ourselves and hope. Always hope. Always hope. Now just a few moments of quiet where we absorb these things that have been said and feel within our hearts this light, this beauty, this truth. Breathe out tension and let's have a few moments of quiet. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace, peace. Peace to you all. Peace to the whole of humanity. May all beings be peaceful and happy. See you next time.